I was doing some research and found an AI recipe. The picture looked amazing and I was desperate to make this cake. But when I read through the recipe, none of the ingredients or steps correlated to the actual picture. Well, I've figured it out and I've made it myself. This is a torta made with chocolate, almond, and ricotta. To set up a double boiler, add about 1 inch of water to a pan and make sure you have a heat-proof bowl that fits on top and doesn't touch the water. Then set your pan to boiling, and once it boils, bring it down to a gentle simmer. Because we're trapping in that heat, you may want to adjust your heat settings on your stove to a little bit lower or a little bit higher, depending on how much the water is boiling. Now to your bowl, add in 200 grams, 1 1/4 cups of chopped dark chocolate. I'm using 70%. You could also use chocolate chips for this recipe. I've chopped them fairly finely, so you've got a nice little mass of chocolate rubble here, but you want them to be able to melt easily. So if you have large chunks, it's going to be a little bit harder for that to happen. I'm also adding in 120 grams, just over 1/2 cup of butter. And again, I've cut it into cubes because that helps the melting process, and the butter is going to protect the chocolate as it melts. Stir gently to help with the melting process. And make sure to scrape your edges because that thin chocolate really can scald quite quickly. It's especially important to keep the chocolate moving at this stage. We've got a few little larger bits of chocolate and the butter left to melt. Once the butter and chocolate have completely melted, carefully take your bowl off of the double boiler and set it aside to cool to room temperature. To your mixing bowl, add 3 egg yolks, then add in half of your required sugar. You'll need 150 grams or 3/4 cups total, so add in half of the amount. The rest we'll save for whisking our egg whites. And add in 1 teaspoon, 4 milliliters of vanilla extract. Now you can do this by hand with electric beaters or a whisk, but you want this to be really pale and fluffy, so you really do need to work extra hard to get that volume. And that's why I'm using a stand mixer with a whisk. Because my bowl is so large, I really want to make sure I'm scraping down the underneath bits of it so that all of the egg and sugar gets mixed together. Your egg yolks should now look really pale, and it will leave a ribbon when you pull your spatula or whisk up. That's exactly what we're looking for.
Line an 8-inch springform pan with parchment paper, leaving some of the paper overhanging around the edges. This makes it easier to remove the cake once it's baked. Liberally butter the entire pan and make sure you get up the sides as well. Then dust the entire pan with cocoa powder. Cocoa powder adds to the chocolatey flavor and keeps it gluten-free. Give the pan a shake so that the cocoa powder goes up the sides of the pan. If there's any excess cocoa powder, tip it out once you finish coating everything.
Now that the chocolate mixture has cooled, we're going to gently mix it into the eggs. And I'm going to give it a little scrape along the bottom to make sure it's all incorporated.
And that looks ready.
To 150 grams or 1 2/3 cup of almond flour or ground almond, you're going to add in 2 tablespoons, 11 grams of cocoa powder. Now I like to give mine a really good sift because my cocoa powder is always a bit lumpy. See, we don't want that in our cake. And the great thing about using almond flour for this recipe is that it makes it naturally gluten-free, meaning you can share it with most of your friends. Then add in 5 grams, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 gram, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And just give that a little mix using a fork. And if you've got any big lumps in your almond flour, this is a great time to work them out. A few small ones are fine, but the larger ones are really going to stand out in the cake. And if you find it easier, just get in there with your hands. That looks pretty nicely mixed to me. Add your almond flour mix to your chocolate and eggs and give it a really good stir to combine. Be a little bit gentle. We don't want to break up all of the air that we've incorporated into the eggs, but it's not the end of the world because we're going to whisk up the egg whites, which will give it some lightness. That looks good enough to dive into. We're just going to set this aside while we whisk up our egg whites. To a very clean bowl, add in your 3 egg whites.
If you're not sure how to separate eggs, I've linked my easy hack in the description below.
If your bowl isn't clean or has any remnants of fat in it, they won't whisk up. Begin whisking your egg whites and then slowly add in the remainder of your sugar. When it's finished, you'll have nice stiff peaks, and the addition of the sugar will make it look really glossy and lovely. If it's a cold day, your chocolate almond mixture might already start to set up. So make sure you give it a good stir before we start trying to add in any egg white. Then add in 1/3 of your egg white, which will lighten the mixture and make it easier to fold in the rest. It's okay if we knock the air out at this point. This is just really helping to lighten the mixture. This is what we call the sacrificial egg white, and you can see how much looser and lighter that looks already. Now go ahead and add in the rest of your whipped up egg whites, and then gently fold it in. My favorite folding method is around the outside and then down the middle, scooping up from the bottom. So around the outside, down the middle, and scoop, and repeat. Once all of the egg whites have been incorporated, we're going to add 2/3 of the batter to our pan. We're going to reserve the other third to go on top of our cheesecake mixture. Give that a good spread around the pan. Now set that aside while we sort out our cheesecake mixture. I've drained my 250 grams or 1 cup of ricotta cheese in a sieve lined with some kitchen towel. This removes any excess moisture and makes sure the consistency is perfect for our cake. Add your ricotta to the bowl, and then add in 1 egg yolk, half a teaspoon, or about 2 milliliters of almond extract, or you could use vanilla if you like. And I'm going to start mixing this together. I like to use a whisk because it helps to break up the ricotta. Then sift in 30 grams, 1/8 of a cup of powdered or icing sugar. I have to sift mine because I live in a very moist area and it tends to get quite lumpy, as you can see. And I just press it through the sieve with my fingers to make sure I'm getting all of that icing sugar into the bowl. Add in 12 grams or 2 tablespoons of ground almonds or almond flour. That will help to stabilize the cheesecake mixture, and whisk it until it's all combined.
This step is optional, but I'm adding in 40 grams or 2 tablespoons of mini chocolate chips.
Kind of looks like cannoli filling. Carefully dollop little bits of the cheese mixture on top of your chocolate layer. I do this in little dollops so that when we spread it, we don't agitate the bottom. And now with an offset spatula or the back of a spoon, gently spread that cheese layer over the chocolate base. Then gently dollop on the remaining third of the chocolate cake mix. We're trying to achieve the same effect as we did with the cheese layer, making sure it's nice and even across the top. If you're struggling with this part and you really just can't get that chocolate layer to be smooth on the top, just swirl it in. It will look lovely and still taste amazing. And again, with the back of the spoon, I'm just going to spread it across.
Make sure to spread the chocolate mixture right to the edge of the pan, covering all of the cheese mixture so that it doesn't burn. And if you have swirled your chocolate into the cheese mixture, that's fine too, but you may need to cover up the top of your pan with foil towards the end of the baking process.
You'll want to preheat your oven to 175 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's get this into the oven. This is going to bake for about 45 minutes or until you put a skewer through and just get a few tiny little crumbs on it. You'll want to let this cool completely in the tin or even overnight in the refrigerator before adding the ganache on top. If your cake is still warm, the ganache will run off and you'll lose that beautiful finish. But before that happens, you want to run a knife around the edge so that you don't get any cracking as it cools and shrinks. The ganache is optional, but I'd highly recommend it. So let me show you how to make it. Add 60 milliliters, 1/4 cup of heavy or double cream to a pot and turn your heat to medium. You're trying to bring this up to a gentle simmer. Now that it's simmering, pour your cream over 100 grams or just over half a cup of dark chocolate that's been chopped. I'm using chocolate chips. Let it stand for about 10 seconds and then start whisking to make sure that chocolate melts thoroughly. Keep whisking until all of the chocolate is melted. If you have any little last stragglers of chocolate that won't melt, pop it in the microwave for about 10 seconds just to heat them up. As you can see, the 10 seconds in the microwave have really loosened up those last little bits of chocolate, and now it's perfectly smooth. I'm going to add in 5 grams, 1 teaspoon of butter, just for a little extra gloss. Once your butter has completely melted, you're ready to top your cake. I've placed my torta on a cooling rack with a tray underneath so that it will catch any excess ganache. Now pour your ganache over the top of your cake while it's still warm. Spread it out, allowing it to drip over the sides. It doesn't have to perfectly coat the sides. It just looks pretty with a few drips here and there. And I've topped mine with this ganache, but you could add powdered sugar, slivered almonds, and really make it your own. Place your torta in the fridge to cool completely before serving.
That cheese layer is so inviting, and doesn't that chocolate layer look so fudgy? You just want to get straight into it. If you want to make it in advance, you can store this in the refrigerator in an airtight container for a few days.
If you're looking for a slightly simpler version of this cake, one that's a little bit more traditionally Italian, you have to try my torta caprese. And I also have a lemon torta caprese recipe too. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button down below. It really does help the video and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.